We have the first statement, okay? The virus will rewrite history. Now, that's obvious. We're seeing that all over the place. You've really got to convince me that this is a myth, because this got to be true. We're seeing that everywhere.
Okay, so get my short answer. It won't. It won't. But it will make history return. If you thought that history went away, it ended, it didn't end. It will return. And it will, second, it will turn all of us into geopolitical realists. Let me explain. Let's start with this iceberg. I have an iceberg here. Okay, it's only an ice cube, but please be aware that it self-identifies as an iceberg. Anyways, who are you to criticize my iceberg? How dare you? How dare you? Okay, so why an iceberg? Why an iceberg? Because politics is an iceberg. It's an iceberg. It's 10% over the water is the actual politics. It's other 90% under the water is morality. It's morality. Okay, so I firmly believe that if you want to understand geopolitics in the long run, you have to put aside oil prices and the military balance of power and focus on morality instead. On morality.
But politics shapes everything that happens in history. I mean, like all the huge decisions that have happened in history were political decisions.
That's perfectly right. Politics shapes history, but morality shapes politics. There is a very interesting research trying to connect morality to politics. And it was conducted in several societies, in most human societies during the last decades. And what we found there? We found that there are 5 basic moral principles. Okay, it is care, authority, equality, in-group loyalty, and purity. These are the 5 principles. Now, what is nice about them, that you will find the same 5 principles everywhere, everywhere. Okay, this is one thing. The second thing is that if you study people with different political persuasions, for instance, the political right, they had their own set of principles. The political left also have their own set of principles. But there is a problem. These are 2 different sets. They don't talk to each other. This is the reason that we can barely communicate with each other. This is what happens now. Now, historically, kings and rulers used to work with all of the 5 principles. Why? Because if you have subjects, you want to have as many leverage as you can over your subjects. Okay. So
what does this have to do with COVID-19? I mean, it's still obvious that COVID-19 will rewrite history.
Okay, no, give me another 30 seconds. I will get you there.
Okay.
No problem.
Dazzle me.
So what happened basically? What happened that during the last few decades after our success, after our victory over the totalitarian ideologies, the intellectuals of the West took out 3 of the 5 principles and decided to build the ideal society on only 2. Okay, care and equality. Now, this shiny new intellectual, this shiny new ideological toy met the reality, hit reality with the COVID crisis. Okay, it hit the reality. Because the question was very simple. If those guys who preach us care and equality for everybody, all the people of the world, will live up to their moral expectations, guess what? They didn't. They didn't. They failed. They acted just like the old hard-nosed nationalists. Okay, giving the cold shoulder to the strangers. That's what they did. That's what they did. And one more sentence, please. I believe that the COVID crisis was the biggest red pill in history. The biggest red pill in history. Okay, why? Because it showed you that in fair weather, you can dream up about perfect human societies and care and equality, but now it's COVID time. And if you look, the ventilator and the tubes in the eye, it will turn you very fast into a geopolitical realist. Very
okay, fair enough. You've got me there. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the fire emojis have it. You've been sending them. It's been spreading like wildfire. So we can consider this myth burned. Okay, this next one, you really have your work cut out for you. Okay, so global governance is our only chance. we've seen that a lot. I mean, that's the entire reason why the UN was there. I mean, we're seeing that it's part of we haven't had a world war in 70 years, and that's because of the UN, right? So global governance is the only chance.
False. I think that nation states are our only chance if we can keep them. And by the way, I think that this whole question belongs to the past. Now, in order to explain it, we will need two basic tools of geopolitical analysis. What are these? Sid, what are these? A few pebbles. You need a few pebbles, okay? And a lump of conglomerate. Okay, these are the basic tools. Every geopolitical analyst, George Friedman and Peter Zeihan, have these things in their bag all the time. They need it. Now, how do you use it? Let's talk straight. Those who root for global governance, they don't root for a few measures here, a few regulations there. No. Global governance, it's only a euphemism for global government. Global government. Now, what is global government? Taking these pebbles and squeezing them together really, really hard in order to make a lump of conglomerate. Yeah,
but that's how you get shared accountability. I mean, you can't have rogue nations doing whatever they want, and that's how we keep each other in check. So we're relatively safe compared to World War II because of global governance.
Okay, let's see. We have a perfect laboratory. It is called history. Okay, so let's look at the history of the Middle East of the last 100 years, and let's see how these things played out. Basically, in the Middle East, we have in the Arab Middle East, we have two kinds of countries. We have failed states and we have successful states. Now, what makes the failed states fail and the successful ones succeed? What makes them? I hear you thinking oil money. No, it's false. It's not oil. It's very simple. The successful states are pebbles. These are pebbles, and the failed ones are conglomerates. Okay, what are those pebbles? I'm talking about the United Arab Emirates. I'm talking about Bahrain. I'm talking about Saudi Arabia. We are talking about relatively small tribal societies which developed according to local custom and local religion and tribal customs into smooth and coherent structures with time. Okay, these are the successful ones. The failed ones are conglomerates. How they were created? Basically, we get a dictator taking pebbles, shreds of stone, sand, and squeezing them together in order to create a conglomerate. Now, what does it take to create such a conglomerate? An ideology, alien to the village, to the local society, to the culture, and some force. How much force? A lot of force. And the more components you have, the more squeeze you have to exercise in order to keep Humpty Dumpty together. Okay, so this is the problem with global governments. You have to take these pebbles and squeeze them really hard. Okay, and if you will break some eggs on the way, making this omelette. Okay, this is the first thing. My second take is that this whole question belongs to the past. I think that our main challenge for the 21st century is keeping our nation states together. Why? Because the 21st century civil war of the West will not be fought between globalists on one hand and nationalists at the other hand. It will be fought between civic nationalism, the citizen of a state, a nation state, and tribal chauvinism. Okay, those who want to take the states apart. And one more question, one more sentence, and I will finish. Just look at the mayhem in Portland, in Minneapolis. You won't see any UN flags up there. You will see tribal flags. And this is our future if we don't hold our states together. That's all.
If you're talking about Minneapolis and Portland, I think a lot of those reports are grossly over-exaggerated by people like Mr. Trump. But, I have to concede to you, the fire emojis are pouring in. So, you know what? I'll take a back seat on this one. I think we can consider this myth burned. Okay, let's move to the third one. Speaking of Mr. Trump, China or the US will win the 21st century. I don't even know what we're doing here debating this. This is obvious. This is the only thing that anyone's ever talking about. So thank you very much. Let's go home, right?
Okay. So I think that China has no way of winning the 21st century. There is absolutely no way. Look, somebody once said that China is a civilization pretending to be a state. Now, pretending to be a nation. Now, is it a nation? It's not a nation. It's a patchwork of all kind of small ethnic groups put together, not by a unified big idea or principle, but a big unified force, an army. Okay, and you as an Indian know it perfectly well. You fought at least 2 wars or 3 wars with them. Okay, so China has so many internal problems, ethnic tensions, internal contradictions in its social and political makeup, a very strong demographic decline, geographic problems. It simply cannot win it. This is one thing.
Well,
the other thing is,
what is a geographic problem? What does that even mean?
China is an island, even if it doesn't look like an island. It is isolated in the southeastern part of Asia, isolated from Asia by the Himalaya mountains, by deserts, by the wasteland of Siberia. And if we are looking at the seas, it is surrounded by a cordon sanitaire of states which are not friendly to China. So it's a state which is insulated in a corner of Asia. It's not
China
like
is not insulated though. The whole world relies on China in terms of manufacturing. I mean, like if Chinese manufacturing goes away, the whole world is on its knees. So how can China be an island?
Okay, I think that I have to burn one more myth inside your myth burning. Do you know who created modern China? Modern China was created by the United States. Okay, modern China was created by the United States.
How?
If you take, I will tell you, if you take all the successes of China in the last 100 years, the defeat of Japan, the reunification of the country, the consolidation under Mao, the counterbalancing the Soviet Union, and the great economic miracle, each of them were completely impossible without the US. Now, in order for China to be great, to make China great again or keep it great, the United States have to be great. Okay, because the United States is a self-contained nation. China has to sell to somebody. Has to sell to somebody. Now, most of the clients of China are in demographic decline too, just like China. United States is in demographic ascent. So this is a very good market. It's a very poor policy for the Chinese to piss off their market, their best market. Now,
okay, but America is 350 million people. There's a whole lot of other people around the world who still depend on Chinese manufacturing.
Yes, that's right. But most of the people are in demographic decline too. And those who are not, they don't have the money to afford the Chinese products that are getting more and more expensive as the Chinese try to change their economic model.
Yeah, but American manufacturing has been in a rapid decline in the past decades, whereas Chinese manufacturing has gone up. So the entire world, even though it might be in demographic decline, there's still just 80 years left of this century. So it's still very possible that it's either going to be the US or China who's going to win the 21st century. It can't be anyone else.
I think that China, as I said, has no way of winning this century because it's so dependent on other countries that it cannot do it by itself. Okay, but at the other hand, the US, perhaps that China doesn't have the means to win this century, but the US has several ways of losing this century, and it's very, very interesting. The United States, because of its domestic problems, can defeat itself. That's my take. They can perfectly defeat themselves because you know look at the Chinese. The Chinese has to import everything. The Americans have everything that they wish, even energy. They don't have to import their energy.
What about oil?
The Americans, since the fracking, the Americans are not dependent on oil anymore. They are turning to be they are self-reliant from an energetic point of view, and they are fast turning into the biggest energy exporters, not energy exporters. Okay,
so what you're saying is that Americans are fracking themselves, right?
They are fracking themselves. They're fracking China too. They are fracked China, and the problem is that they are fracked Russia too because of the oil prices. Okay, so they are fracking the whole world. And I think that in the long run, you will see the 21st century will still belong to the United States if they don't, if they won't kill themselves with a second civil war. This is the condition for their success.
So a civil war, but You still have to convince me
Okay.
that China can lose. Like I don't understand how a civil war can even happen. I mean, this is 2020. There can be tension, sure, but I don't think that the U.S. is ever going to get to a point where it's motivated enough to actually go to war with itself. I think it's still a very viable player in this game.
Okay, so you asked me two separate questions. First, I have to I have to persuade you, convince you about China.
Yeah, I'm
and
not
I have
there
to
yet.
tell you about the United States. Okay, about China, it's very simple. China, in order to be able to export all its products, it has to live in an environment, geopolitical environment, where China's products can be shipped on the seas. Now, what makes possible to China to ship its product overseas? The United States Navy. Now, if the United States will pull away this support for this globalization, or it will disappear as a global power, the Chinese will have to build a similar navy of a similar size in order to be able to export their products. Okay, just to keep up their energy line from the Persian Gulf to China depends on the United States Navy. Most of the huge Chinese Navy, most of it cannot sail more than 100 miles beyond China's shores. It's a big problem.
Are you serious?
Yes. It's a brown water navy. It's a navy that cannot pass even the first cordon sanitaire of the nations surrounding it. It depends on the United States. So as I told you, in order for China to be great again, the United States has to be great. It's a midget standing on the shoulders of a giant.
Wow. Okay. Well, okay, you finally got there. I'm finally convinced, and I think that the audience is convinced as well. So I think we can consider this myth burned. All right, well, I'm sitting here with egg on my face because I came in here with such bravado. I was so sure I was right, and now Robert Castel has come here with his iceberg and his pebbles and his visuals, and he's basically told me to go frack myself. So, Robert, where can people follow you if they want to hear more about what you have to say?
They can follow. I have a channel on my YouTube. On YouTube, they can see my videos on the YouTube channel. They can read my book at Amazon about innovation, how innovation can fail us, and what are the dangers of innovation. I would like very much people to read this book and to share their opinion about what I've written in the book. And they can contact me by email or Twitter, Facebook, whatever.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for sending in your fire emojis. Robert, I really want to thank you for your time. This has been illuminating for me, and I think I have a lot of reading to do. So I want to thank you for your time. Thank you very much at home.
Thanks for having me, Sid.
Of course.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.